because if in 2024 we are still talking about scandals daily, every other day, if in 2024 we are still discussing about demonstrations after people say that maandamano ya Gen Z should come to an end, we've seen the teachers strike, we've seen the airport employees strike, we've seen the university students strike, we've seen the university students, lecturers on strike, and we have seen even the matatu people go on strike. So it means nothing is working in this nation. Yesterday we saw the Marikiti demonstrations. So at the end of the day, you realize 2 years down the line, everybody is still complaining of incompetency, of corruption, of scandals left, right, and center. But again, the question always narrowed down. Assuming the president was the worst person, what would we talk about when we talk of the parliament, the Senate? Because if he was the worst person by now, we would have impeached him and said he can no longer take charge of this nation. If the parliament was strong enough to call him out, the Senate itself was doing its work, we would not get here. So it's a whole process that has been engineered by different entities, left, right, and center. Look at TSCC. We saw them handing over assets to the same corrupt person that everybody in this nation is complaining about. So why would you take corrupt money from politicians and hand them over to the most worst corrupt person? So it's a deal of we are simply changing cups of from one cup of tea to another cup of tea. And I think the problem in this nation will not stop exactly at the president. It's about every other government entity. What is the Kenya police doing about it? What is the Interior Department doing about it? When we talk about abductions, is it only the problem of the president? No. It's the problem of every other sector that is involved in these things. When we talk of brutal killings in the country, the still and recovered bodies of people who died back then during maandamano, when we saw bodies at that swamp in Kware. So at the end of the day, it's not really a President Ruto problem. It's a problem of everybody around him not wanting to be honest enough and doing their jobs. Okay.
Stephen Njeri, what's your take? On a scale of 1 to 10?
From a scale of 1 to 10, I give Ruto 3.
3. Okay.
President Ruto got into leadership at a point where the country was rising from the ruins of COVID-19. We were at a point where in 2021 we had an economic growth rate after COVID of about 7.5%. By then the global economic growth rate was around 5.1%. Right now in 2024 we have dropped to I think around 5.3%. That shows by itself that there is something that President Uhuru was doing that President Ruto is not doing. We were in a time where we had a lot of policies that were supposed to help Kenyans, that were supposed to alleviate the economic pain that they were going through the time of COVID. And when President Ruto came, he has had an angle of overtaxing Kenyans, of putting the burden on Kenyans. And what he didn't realize is that when you overburden Kenyans, the economy cannot grow, because the economy majorly can only be grown by the private sector. So what President Ruto is doing wrong, that previous regimes, especially the Kibaki regime, was doing right. When President Kibaki came, he realized that the only way to contribute to the economic growth of the country was to focus on empowering the private sector. So once you give money and you make money available to the private sector, MSMEs, SMEs, then you're able to promote economic growth, you're able to create jobs. Right now, the unemployment rate in Kenya has grown by 1% in the last 3 years, in the last 2 years. That shows just how much, when we try to create jobs through infrastructure projects like the housing project, we can never really meet the demand. And so one thing that the President Ruto has really failed is going into power and having a team of leaders and cabinet and the whole management system that is focused on infrastructure projects.